Let's talk about the biggest developments that went down in the recruiting world from the weekend. We'll start with the Dogs' final push for Cantwell. Who am I talking about? Jackson Cantwell. The number one overall prospect in America is ready to make his decision. He's going to announce it on Tuesday afternoon. We're going to have coverage right here on the On3 Recruit channel, so you're not going to want to miss that. But you guys know Jackson Cantwell, 6'8", 305 pounds from Nixa, Missouri. Well, he was in Athens this weekend. Yes, just one more visit to the school that he's visited more than anyone else before his big decision. And guess who was there with him? Quarterback Jared Curtis. Remember him? Number one quarterback in America. He committed to Georgia just about a week ago, and he was in town. He was recruiting Jackson Cantwell. Why not? I mean, who doesn't want a 6'8", 305-pound offensive tackle protecting his blind side when he arrives? So we got 6 teams that are involved in this recruitment, but I think you can kind of put them in 2 tiers. You got Oregon, Georgia, and Miami, who I think are the real contenders heading into Tuesday, but you can't discount Michigan, Ohio State, and in-state Missouri. They are also heavily involved. They've also hosted him on multiple visits. So Jackson Cantwell has a big decision coming down, and of course, his decision is going to impact who finishes number one overall, because if Georgia lands him, that's 2 number one players at their position within an 8-day stretch. Oregon, they really need him if they're going to get back into number one spot. The Ducks had been holding on to number one before USC jumped them. Now, Georgia is pressing. Ohio State's pressing. You got Miami ready to make a move. So this decision is going to factor in to who ends up number one overall, not just who lands number one overall. So Jackson Cantwell coming off the board on Tuesday. You guys, let me know, where do you think he's going? All right, the next big development I was tracking, Ducks, they break out of a big slump. Richard Wesley commits, 6'5", 250-pound edge, gave Dan Lanning and the Ducks a verbal. He picked Oregon over Ohio State, Texas, and USC. This was a monster commitment. Remember, just last week we were on here. We had Max Torres from Scoop Duck. We were talking about the slump, the skid, whatever you want to call it, that Oregon was in over the last 5, 6, 8 weeks. No commitments, kind of a dry stretch for recruiting. But I was on here saying, don't you worry, Dan Lanning has you. And as you can see, the Ducks, they get off the schneid. They land a huge commitment from Wesley, who made his commitment with a video. Let's cue that up.
Oh, didn't see you there. Well, all the schools, they all show me, types of love, but there's one school, show me the most love, and, I guess it's where I'm going. You ready, Coach?
Let's get it.
Whoa. It's time, baby. Let's go.
That's his commitment. We might need to watch that again. Let's watch that again. A couple things I want to point out here. So if this video looks kind of thrown together. One,
didn't see you there.
I think you got to put some swim trunks on. I don't know the rules here, but I feel a little uncomfortable. I think he needs to put some swim trunks on. Maybe it's Oregon can't find any. But there's a couple other things I noticed about this video. It's definitely gray out. I don't think there's girls sunbathing by the pool before Memorial Day in Eugene. The other thing that I noticed about this, why are Jordan Travis's Florida State quarterback, watch this, we're going to see Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis make a cameo right there. Look at the background. Why are they watching Jordan Travis's highlights? There's a lot about this video that I don't understand. All right, that's great. Hey, maybe it's cringe, maybe it's not. I understand why Nick Saban retired. I'm not saying Nick Saban should have retired, but I understand why Nick Saban retired. All right, so that's not it for Oregon. We're going to see them, they're in it for Jackson Cantwell. They're in it for wide receiver Messiah Hampton, the number one player out of New York. They're in it for Joey O'Brien. So I think this Richard Wesley commitment is just going to get things started. Remember, also, they're in line for maybe a couple 5-stars. Brandon Arrington comes off the board the day after July 4th. Then you got Ryder Lyons. He's a 5-star you got to watch. So Oregon, as I said the other day, I don't think there's anything to worry about when it comes to Oregon recruiting. All right. Buff's big visit weekend. Again, I know. We mentioned the Buffs' big visit weekend last week. Now they're back at it again with the headliner of this weekend being number 2 ranked wide receiver Sedarian Morgan. He's from Alexander City, Alabama, and he is one of the best overall at the wide receiver position. We're seeing a lot of that out in Boulder this cycle. Another flip target, Vance Spafford. He's a wide receiver. Committed to Georgia, but he's from California. We know Colorado likes to dip into Cali and land some of those guys. So look at Vance Spafford out in Boulder. Also, he's entertaining Miami and Washington as well. So the number 11 ranked receiver, number 85 overall. So we're talking top 100 prospect out there in Boulder. IMG sent a couple of their best out to Boulder this weekend. Teammates Gniver Carr and DK Forkpa, they're in town. Also, on 300 safety, Jordan Deck. He's from Texas. Donovan Webb. He's another 4-star from the state of Texas. Both prized defensive backs. I mean, you see where this is headed. It doesn't matter if Coach Prime lands a commitment this weekend. He is setting up to have a stronger high school recruiting class than maybe we've seen in his time at Colorado. So keep an eye on the Buffs. We'll be talking about them later this week. All right. The final development I want to talk about today is 5-star cuts his list down. On3's number 2 ranked edge, number 6 player overall, Carter Meadows. He goes 6'6.5", 225-pound standout from Washington, D.C., and he's got 4 teams in the mix, and all 4 of those teams are going to get official visits. The teams are South Carolina, Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. Now, the coveted defensive end, he'll begin his official visit tour at South Carolina later this month, May 30th. Then he'll return to Penn State, June 6th. Ohio State, that'll be June 13th. And then Michigan, 7 days later, locked in for June 20th. I like Michigan getting that last visit. I think if I break it down, South Carolina, probably the dark horse in this. Then you got Penn State, but I think at the top, Ohio State, Michigan battle. Michigan gets that final visit. Could we be looking at a decision for Carter Meadows coming after that June 20? So maybe 7-8 weeks. Another 5-star could be off the board. What do you guys think? So those were some of the biggest developments that I was tracking this weekend. What did you guys see? Let me know. Comment section below.